let's talk about what happened today with in Saudi Arabia. This might be another one where well, I think you might be more passionate about this. So
It
today,
relates in some ways, I think.
King Solomon made a major change and placed his 31-year-old son next in line to be the king, the crown prince. Prince Mohammed bin Solomon. He's only 31. He was previously second in line for the throne, next behind his uncle.
Yeah, his much older uncle.
His much older uncle. So it makes sense if you think of it from a autocrat perspective.
Right.
A dictator wants his son to take over after him. But how does it make sense in the, well, I mean, I guess the king can do whatever he wants to do.
That's the
But
thing about being king.
he really changed the paradigm. Like, is this, has this been done before?
Not to my knowledge. Generally, it's been a series of very old men in charge of both the family and the kingdom. Right? It's a pretty remarkable thing. It's a family and it's a kingdom. How does it make sense? I mean, I think in some ways that you have to go back to the Arab uprisings and note that Middle Eastern dictators are shaking a little bit, right? And they see what has happened around them, right? You see Tunisia, you see Syria, you see Libya, and so on. And there's a sense that doing it the same way over and over again creates a problem.
Right.
And this guy, bin Salman, does have a pretty good track record domestically in terms of doing stuff in Saudi Arabia, pushing towards reforms. Now, they're all relative reforms, right? None of them are going to make you happy sitting in Boston or Norway, right? But in terms of liberalizing the economy to a certain extent, in terms of trying to get more people. I mean, one of the real issues in Saudi Arabia is that people have tended to live off of subsidies. And he's made an effort to try to push them towards work. He's trying to diversify the economy. He at least sort of signals that some of the gender issues can be moved in a better direction.
But again, this is comparatively
It's
speaking.
all comparatively, right? And it's all comparatively in the context of the fact that the Wahhabi the theological strand of the society is almost equal to the prince. Right, almost equal to the king, almost equal to the royal family, right? That this is that they need to be balanced, right?
Right.
And so, but he is signaling things that you don't see otherwise. At the same time, before you get too excited about him as somebody who might push things in a good direction, he's also super hawkish, super sectarian, super militaristic. He has been instrumental. He's been sort of the head of the war in Yemen, and that has been a very ugly, ugly war with many, many civilians, Shia civilians being killed. And he really, really does not like Iran.
So that was,
And that's a big thing, right?
Right.
And so you've got who doesn't like Iran, right? The Israelis don't like Iran. Donald Trump doesn't like Iran. This guy who we just made a big arms deal with doesn't like Iran. If you're going to point towards, awful scenario of war, to me, it makes
goes to him.
Goes through him. That's
so the irony of it is that where he might, and I use this word very loosely and in the context of Saudi Arabia, where he might be progressive on their domestic issues. He's extremely hawkish with regard to Iran, with regard to the civil war in Yemen. And the problem with this is that this is a huge generational shift.
Yeah.
Right. You're going from an elderly king who will may be here tomorrow, may not.
They tend to not. They don't hit the stairmaster very much. Those kings. So yeah.
All the way down to now at 31-year-olds, so that if he's next in line, he could be the king through the rest of our lives.
He eats his vegetables. Yeah. I mean, he could be there. I mean, it could be decades and decades. I mean, who knows? I mean, people, things will change over time, but there is a tremendous anti-Iranian, anti-Shia coalition forming
on the international stage. Yeah.
And then we've got, so that's like the pile of tinder, right? And then you've got Syria, which has every possibility of being the spark.
Yeah.
Right? It already, and I don't mean to downplay the incredible conflagration that is Syria itself.
Right. But
it could be the thing that expands that. And I'm not a historian. I don't really know how to make a World War I comparison, but there is a sort of thing about alliances that are sort of strange and lining up that to me is at least a bit unnerving.
Yeah. now you have me thinking about the different alliances and how easily and unavoidably we got into World War One. And with decisions like this, his hawkishness towards Iran, it in a scary way, really does set the stage that you're outlining there, right? It in an unnerving way, because there's a zeal that he brings to it, and that his youthfulness brings to it, that actually is more troubling than the status quo right now.
I think that's right, and I think that you sort of put it as a paradox that he wanted to reform things at home, but was still pretty sort of very sectarian. But in some ways, these sort of one covers for the other. Right, so he has been pretty aggressive, saying giving hints at least that women should be able to drive, for example, and things like this. Right, they are going. Those statements cost you some cred with the theocracy, with the old school crowd, right? But anti-Shiaism might earn you some back.
Okay.
Right, it might sort of establish saying, okay, so he's a little bit liberal in this, but he knows where real Islam is.
Right. And
we're putting words in his mouth, right? I mean, I don't know. But they go together in a funny way, right? And Iran has played that role for many places, right? For Sunni regimes. It's if they can't point to Israel, right, they'll point to Iran to sort of get off of something domestically that they don't like. And
what do you see as a satisfactory, not satisfactory to us? What's his end game in Yemen? What does that look like? Because as you know, he's the defense minister. He's been running that campaign in Yemen. He wants a victory. But considering the type of weapons that we sold them, and considering the way they've engaged in this battle so far, victory is a humanitarian crisis in many regards.
The ongoing process is. I suspect he wants to put the genie back in the bottle, right? That this is so two things. One, he wants to effectively turn the narrative to the idea internationally that this is a proxy war. That the Iranians have put the Houthi, I might be saying that not exactly right, but the Shia group put them up to this, right? It's not an authentic rebellion of people who want greater rights. That's the first thing, I think, right? And the second thing I think is he wants to kill enough of them that they stop, right? And as crazy as that kind of sounds, we look to Syria, and Assad is gonna be in charge of part of that country probably as long as he's alive. Right, which seemed just impossible if you looked at the beginning of the Syrian uprising.
Right,
it just seemed impossible. Now, I don't suspect that he will be in charge of all of Syria.
Right,
I think that we are in sort of the mode where partition is likely, but he's gonna be the president of something, right? And so he put the genie kind of back in the bottle just by killing, hundreds of thousands and displacing. I mean, the death total, the displacement total, the injury totals are horrific, but it looks like he's gonna be around. Right, and so in Yemen, that seems much less complicated to do that.
We had a comment here. So the actual statement was that this is from Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He said that if a woman could ride camels during the life of the Prophet, then maybe women can drive cars. And this is actually progress. Like,
it's very
I don't want to knock. I mean, this is progress in terms of Saudi Arabia.
No, 100% it's progress. Yeah,
wow.
I mean that constitutes considerable progress, and it's a good lesson that leaders aren't good or bad. Right, they come with a bucket. Some are really bad, but they come with a bucket of things. Right, there are elements of it that they don't always seem consistent to our sort of moral compass.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's really looking at it and not slamming on anything that you've said, but the war he's carrying out in Yemen,
inexcusable.
There's like nothing he could do in Saudi Arabia to like make up for that.
That is totally true, but we are sitting here in the United States, and we just sold them.
We did. Yes, we did.
110. There's 110 billion, something like
billion,
that. It's
yep.
So I don't know if Max, if you can look
some
up
obscene amount.
110 billion, and I've done very marginal sort of poking around on this. I know that there's a list of weapons that actually that Congress is trying to get taken out. Some Democrats in Congress are trying to ban their sale. Crazy stuff like these detonators that will delay an explosion for up to 24 hours. Right? You say, what use is that in a war? Well, you wait till the women and children come out, and Like, we are selling them these things.
Wow.
Right? And so you're absolutely right. There's nothing he can do with women drivers to put back the limbs on those kids who blew up from the cluster bombs he dropped.
Yeah.
But it's hard to judge sitting here.
As being complicit as we are
Our tax
with what's
dollars
happened there.
Built those weapons.
Yeah.
You know?